The single most controversial episode under the government's asylum seeker turn-back strategy occurred in January this year, when a boat carrying 45 passengers was intercepted off northern Australia. Asylum seekers on that boat later claimed that some of them had had their hands deliberately burned on a hot engine pipe by Australian personnel. The allegations caused a political storm and were categorically denied by the government and its agencies. Tonight, that episode is the focus of part 2 of our special investigation into Operation Sovereign Borders. Indonesia correspondent George Roberts gained access to 2 immigration detention centres in Indonesia, where he spoke to 12 passengers who were on the boat in question. They've described an intense confrontation on board that escalated to the point where they claim the Australians used force. We were not permitted to interview the Australian personnel involved in the operation, which means we only have the asylum seekers' side of the story. Their version of events raises new questions about the turnback and why the passengers have never been questioned by Australian authorities about their claims. Reporter George Roberts and producer Mark Solomons.
This is a rare glimpse inside Indonesia's largest immigration detention centre. Once a week, the inmates get to exercise a little freedom, stretch their legs and forget about their troubles. Australia funded the expansion of the Tanjung Pinang facility in Indonesia's north to hold hundreds more asylum seekers and stop them getting to Australia. But some of these people did make it to Australian waters in January this year. We've been granted access to investigate what happened on their journey.
Were you on the boat that was turned back by Australia?
Yeah.
This was the boat on which they made that voyage. And this is all that's left of it now. It washed up with 45 asylum seekers on board at Roti Island in eastern Indonesia on January the 6th. But one critical piece of equipment from the boat survived intact, the GPS device that helped them get to Australian waters. It was hidden from Australian authorities, but seized once they reached Indonesia. We tracked down the GPS in Kupang, West Timor, and downloaded its data to reconstruct the journey of the boat, aptly named the Risky. It was early on December the 28th that they slipped out of a small fishing port on the east coast of Sulawesi. Hundreds of GPS coordinates tracked the Risky on its way down around East Timor and south towards Darwin, an unconventional route that evaded detection by Australian border patrols. Somali man Imad Aboud was travelling with his younger brother Muhammad.
Family habartay abay waxa li dhahay walaalka ilaali. waqtigaas yani casif waa jirta iyo bad waa kacsaneed bas asi kuraas jiifa anina hoosaan jiif lani asi kuraas jeclahay inaan jiifo qabow daraadiis anina taabaan ahay waana cabsanooya ma jecli inaan kor jiifto.
By morning on the 1st of January, the Risky was entering Australian waters north of Darwin. It was then the weather deteriorated according to the passengers. Sudanese man Yusuf Fasha was on board with his wife Marian Ahmed.
So big wave is like 2-3 meters come. Then they hit the boat and then both bodies make shaking. That time there is 4 people they're sitting and Abdullah he was sitting up at that time too. 4 people fall down on the water and we don't have a jacket, life jacket.
Imad Aboud says his brother was one of 4 men who fell into the ocean and disappeared.
habeenkaas maxaan maqlay qeylo iyo buuq bad ilmaha maxaa lii dhahay waa dadaada dhaceen iyo waxaas anigana ma ogeenin waqtigaas ilaa subaxdii camal oraxda markaas soo baxda walaalahay waa kimid oo dadka oo lagu dhacay.
Another Somali, Said Islam, says his brother also went overboard. Yusuf Fasher used a satellite phone he was carrying to call the international emergency number 112.
We called them, they answered us, we told them our problem, we told them we have 4 people fell down already on the water, we don't have life jacket. He said, where are we exactly? We need your position. We gave them their position, said, okay, try to be strong until someone will come to you. So we are continuing.
He says they were told to try to reach land.
When I gave him the position, he said, you are near to the island. I said, yes. He said, try to go land down to the nearest island.
Hello?
In Melbourne, a Lebanese man who only wants to be identified as Mohammed got a call from the same satellite phone. It was a relative on board the boat.
He's crying. Yeah, he's crying. The first time is not crying. This after I ring him, I call him back. He's crying, please, 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 please help me. What can I do? You know, just I call the police.
Australian Customs told the ABC it rigorously assessed and acted on the claims that passengers went overboard, and it's confident the claims are not true. The last set of GPS coordinates recorded that morning show the boat 8 kilometres from Australia's Melville Island. According to the asylum seekers, shortly after this, they made landfall.
So which beach did you land on?
Come here.
Then an Australian Border Patrol arrived.
We saw one big ship from far is coming towards us. They came, they round us, some of them by this side, some of them by this side. They said, how are you? Are you fine? We said, yes, we are fine. Just we have people, lost 4 people in that direction. Said, okay, now we are going to look for the people, for your people that they fall down. But you have to go to the boat. It's not safe place in your place. They say there is a lot of crocodile, there is a lot of spider, there is a lot of dangerous animal here.
The asylum seekers refused to get back on board the Risky. We can't verify their allegations about how they were treated during the events that followed. Passenger Abdullah Ahmed Mohammed says he tried to run away.
I started running, they tied me by the plastic rope and kicked me by shoes in here.
Why did they do that?
I start to run in the island, I don't want to go back. And they say I have to go back to the boat.
xoogaa lii qaada 2 qofa inta ii qabsadeen inta ii qabsadeen markabka sidii eri camalaa lii tuur waqtigaas sugiga jilibkaa jugu ii gaar.
Imad Aboud says he was still in shock after the disappearance of his brother.
markaan kaca waa u sheegay walaalkayaas dhumo waa u sheegay maxaa lii dhahay fadhiiso waa raadinaynaa waanu socon fadhiiso waa raadinaynaa fadhiiso waa raadinaynaa waa nin liitum bakhaakhaa liisood markabkood yariiska markabka yariiskana maxaa liigay markabka weynka agtiis cirbadaa liisii cirbadaas nisbat munawimaan ku jira hurdadii.
This video, filmed from a commercial helicopter later that day, shows the Risky escorted by an inflatable Navy boat heading back towards Indonesia. A larger Navy ship was nearby.
The Armidale patrol boat was kind of doing circles or just out a bit further, and there's a lot of sand shoals around this. I guess he was staying in the deeper water. Then we saw the asylum boat, blue and white thing, and we estimated 20 to 30 people on the front deck. They're all geared up in life jackets when we got there, and about 4 of the Navy blokes, and they seemed to have things in pretty good order, and they were starting to steam under their own power to the northwest, out towards the bigger boat, with another couple of rigs, or the floatable boats, flanking them.
One of the asylum seekers filmed on a mobile phone as Australian military personnel stood guard. The asylum seekers say some of the Australians involved came from a Navy ship numbered 154. This corresponds with the frigate Parramatta. The ship was on border protection duties in Australia's northern waters at the time. It was carrying members of a special unit used in boarding operations called a transit security element. These units are drawn from members of the Navy, Army and Air Force. The green camouflage uniforms seen here are normally worn by members of the Army or Air Force.
When we ask them where we are going, they say that we don't know. This is order and we don't know anything about this. And they treat us by force, and everything they say it's not good.
Sometimes they say you, they speak, you are comfort, you yourself, you choose to come. Not, we don't give you invitation to come to the country, so you have to accept the consequences what you did.
They say, sit down, don't do this, don't do this. They are shouting. Well, sometimes I'm not understand. Some words they would come out from his mouth.
And how did the asylum seekers respond emotionally?
They are crying. Asylum seekers also, they are crying. The women are crying. The people are shouting.
What happened once people found out that you were going back to Indonesia?
Thursday, I think the Thursday we started for the protest and something like that. So some people throw the to swimming or something. I was one of them. What the people was swimming.
So you jumped in the ocean?
Yeah, jumped to sea. Then everybody come back on the boat. They said you have to sit on the sign. You now sign.
In the sun.
Yeah, they said you have to sit here for 4 hours.
They said now as a punishment you have to stay here 5 hours. The sun is shining, from the sky on you. This is punishment.
The asylum seekers admit they'd already attempted to sabotage the engine.
We put sugar in the engine, and water in the fuel.
I see, to stop it from working.
Yes, to stop the engine.
They claim that once it was up and running again, Australian military personnel limited their access to the toilet, which could be reached by going through the engine room.
The second day that they started, they said for the toilet, only one time for man in the daytime, for women in the nighttime only.
The restriction on passengers going to the toilet infuriated some of the asylum seekers. When a female passenger was prevented from going, 4 men stormed the engine room to try to force their way to the toilet.
When she started crying, the young people, they said, no, we have to go by force to the toilet.
Then dagaal meesha ka dhacay. Askartii dadkii inta la isku buuqay, askartii qaarkood suntii dadku buufiyeen.
The so-called poison is believed to be pepper spray, routinely issued to border protection personnel to deal with non-compliant or threatening behaviour. The passengers say Bobby Nouris led the charge to the toilet. He says he was then sprayed with pepper spray and fell, burning his hand on a hot pipe in the engine room.
يعني بعد واسود دقيق بعد هوس وجرت موتور كتيس تعليم فهمنو يجينا ماشي جوجين أسكرت هوس وجرين مركا قلي أو أن رادينو سيدي اللي يبو فيه مركا هالبنتور أنا شغين هاي أنا أو يعني رادينا ميلا خبصة أبار برتي أكو دقي مركا dhibkan ma soo gaari lahayn haddii sunta inaha laga gelinayn dhibkan ma soo gaari lahayn
ali maxaa arkay bobis asagoo agtay ku soo ordaay indhahey dhahay gacantiisa asagoo guban waa arkay gacantiisa asagoo oo guban waa arkay
It was after this, according to the allegations made by passengers, that 3 asylum seekers had their hands deliberately burned by Australian personnel.
I'm in a gate, I saw them with my eyes. Abdullah, he was in a top, I think so. But I'm sitting there, so they catch from his hands like this one, they put it on the exhaust of the engine that is hot, that's taking, fuel, the smoking out of the engine. So they put like this one after one. And they told, after they burn them and they take them out, they come and they call me, Yusuf, translate for anyone here. If anyone try to go to the toilet again, we will banish them like this one, tell them.
Some of the asylum seekers who were on board the Risky are still reluctant to talk about the incident.
They're afraid because they don't want to speak another and they lose the chance for the recognition of refugee and then they will face another problem.
But now one of the alleged victims has spoken out for the first time. 23-year-old Sudanese man Mustafa Ibrahim was too nervous to be filmed, but let us photograph him and record his voice.
ما في طريقة كان الموت معنا من الصغيرين ونحن اضطرينا قلنا نمشي الحمام والناس دول لعبوا لنا ونحن اضطرينا قاموا الناس دول مسكونا وخطوا أيدينا في البوابة حرقونا.
And who did that to you?
والله ساكرة.
Is there any way that what happened with your damage to your hand could have been an accident?
ما قصد.
He repeatedly insisted it was deliberate and demonstrated how, he says, the Australians grabbed his arms.
جابوا مجال واحد طلع مجال والثاني طلع مجال يدي طبعا خط لي في العالم هنا واحد مسكت خط في يدي زي انا قمت جبت يدي ثلاثه بعد بقى ما اعرف انه بحرقون ولا ما بحرقون انا تخيلت انه قالوا يربطوني اوكي بعد ذاك حرقون في العالم هنا وهنا بابا انا بعد حرقون قمت جبت انه طلعت لقيت عالم سخن شديد وحرق يدي كله قمت جريت ثلاثه.
Yusuf Fasha says he witnessed the deliberate burning of 3 men.
When they catch them, they put their hands on the exhaust of the engine, one after one. They put one like this. When it's a burn, they take hands, they lift, say, take it back. They take it from here and they take it from the windows back. The another one, they put it one after one. This is what they did. This I saw with my eyes, not only me. They saw more than 4 or 5 people, and all of them is here. You can find them and ask them.
Another passenger, Mansour Ali Ibrahim, says he too witnessed the burning incident.
But I see the hand making the exhaust.
You saw them put the hand?
Yeah, because the time is hand becoming damage.
Other passengers didn't see but heard the screams.
marka ayagoo gubsana anigana ma ka gaarin marka inta imaadeen dadka la gubay ma arkin laakiin ayagoo gubsana ay imaadeen bahalka oo ilka lagu meesanay macjuunka.
Weeks later, Mustafa Ibrahim showed us what he claims are healed burn marks.
بعد ما حرقوا ما قادر أفكر يومين 3 4 يوم ما قادر أفكر بعد جيت هنا مشيت المستشفى حطونا عليها بس دقيقة.
The passengers from the Risky are now held in immigration detention centres across Indonesia. We tracked down 12 of them in facilities at opposite ends of the country. They were surprised that no Australian official had sought to question them or investigate their claims.
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
After viewing dozens of photos of Australian personnel who were on board HMAS Parramatta in January, several asylum seekers told us they could identify individuals involved in their interception.
runtii horta ciidanka inta badan horta ma wada xumay laakiin dad aad u xun way ka baxeen because sida horta inkastoo magacyada aan kala xisay laakiin da muuqaalka arko aan soo kala saari karo
Yusuf Fasha and his fellow passengers may face years in detention, hoping to be resettled. They'll have ample time to reflect on their failed attempt to seek asylum in Australia.
The Australian government says that the asylum seekers are making these claims up in order to discredit the Australian government's policy.
What is my interest that to make claim against the government of Australia? What I can get benefit from it? I know they will never come and take me from here to Australia, 100%, because it is a country, there's a constitution. They will never be able to come and take someone from the jail to Australia unless we just through the procedure of UN. I know 100%. What's my interest to do it? Nothing.
Imad Abood has just one request.
walaalkay haddaa la helo halii soo celiyo walaalkay amjadadiis am asinool almeen badoodaas ka dhintay walaalkay anana been ma sheegay wax ma karabi Australia ama leeyahay isiis lacag ma karabi wax ma karabi ma fahamta maxaa iisi walaalkay le haddaa hesho ha ii raadis ha ii keento walaalkay
That was George Roberts and Mark Solomon's reporting, with editing by Prue Kingsmill and post-production by Leslie Robinson. This evening, Australian Customs and Border Protection provided a further statement on the claims that 4 passengers were lost overboard. They say the weather conditions at the time were benign and that they interviewed people on board the boat, including the master, who indicated no one had fallen overboard. They said they conducted an extensive air and sea search and did not locate anyone from the vessel. Immigration Minister Scott Morrison was not available for an interview. His office provided a statement saying the government rejects unsubstantiated allegations of inappropriate conduct by Australian personnel. That statement will be on our website tonight.